Hey guys, what's going on? It's RC Knockout. I am back with another video. Now if you guys are new to the channel, my name is Nolan, and in today's video I have got another upgrade for the Cheapest Traxxas Slash project. Now you might wonder, what is the upgrade that I will be doing today? Well, I will be doing this right here. I bought these big bore shocks, guys, so I am upgrading the shocks on this Traxxas Slash to these big bore oil filled shocks. I got these on Amazon. I can't remember the brand, but if I find them, I'll put them in the description and I'll give you guys a link if you want to go check them out. But these should fit on this machine. Now you might wonder, why am I upgrading these shocks? Well, I noticed after the last running video, this shock right here is pretty bent. I want to see if I can get it on camera for you guys. I don't know if you guys can tell that. You see the bottom of this shock? You'll be able to see a lot better once I actually get it off the RC, but there's a significant bend in that shock shaft right where my index finger is, right there, at the bottom. And I could possibly bend that back, but I thought I had these sitting around. I bought these earlier on when I first decided to do this project. I knew I wanted to upgrade the shocks, and these are significantly larger bore than the stock ones that are on here. So I decided, what better time than now to actually upgrade the shocks. Now I'm going to actually be doing another mod aside from just upgrading the shocks. I'm going to be opening these shocks up and actually using a little bit of this fuel line that I have right here. I'm going to cut up some little bits of fuel line and basically put some fuel line underneath the piston inside of each one of these shocks, which will basically limit the amount of travel that the RC has, but it'll help it prevent it from flipping, which is a constant issue. Always wants to flip. Now, I did do the low center of gravity conversion kit. If you haven't checked out that video, I will put it right up here or here, whichever. But so go check that out if you haven't checked that out. Now, that's helped a lot, the low center of gravity conversion kit, but this thing still has kind of a tendency to tip. So it's still going to tip on me, so I thought this is a good upgrade to do, but also a good idea to do this little hack and cut up some fuel line and put it underneath of the piston. So guys, that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. So let's go ahead and jump right into this install. Alright guys, so to begin with, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just get this wheel and tire off. You'll be able to see a lot better what I'm doing. Let's see, that is a 7mm nut holds the wheel on. Alright. There we go, got that off. Now you might be able to see a little bit better that bend. There's a pretty significant bend in this shock shaft right there. The first thing I'm going to do is, it looks like I have a 2mm on both the bottom as well as the top of the shock that holds the shock onto the shock tower and onto the lower suspension arm. So let me find my 2mm. Got my 2mm. Alright, got the bottom one off. I forgot I had to use a nut to stand these off. I had to use a nut to stand these off, these shocks, stand them off from the shock tower, because otherwise it would, the shock cap would come in contact with the shock tower. Now look at that bend. You can tell now that's a pretty significant bend in that shock shaft. It's, let's see if it'll still even compress properly. Kind of to there. From there on, not all the way though. Let's go ahead and open up the new shocks that I have right here. So let me get this ripped open. Looks like it also has some other hardware that comes with. So here's a front one right here. But as you guys can see, let me grab a rear one out, because the rear ones are going to be the longer ones. So got a couple front ones, and here are the rear ones right here. And the thing I want to show you with the rear ones is just how much larger these are than the stock shocks. Now this right here is the stock shock right here. And you might be getting a little bit thrown off because of these clips right here. It makes the shock body look bigger on the stock one. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those off real quick. Here is two. Now you guys can actually get an idea of how big of a shock body it is. It's not really all that big. And here is next to the new shocks, and the shock shafts look like they're probably at least 1mm thicker of a shock shaft, and it's just a significantly larger shock body. And these are aluminum, so this should be a nice upgrade. I wonder if there's any oil in these because they don't feel like they have. Really, it feels like this has more resistance. These stock shocks, but this one's bent, but it feels like the stock shock has more resistance than this does. So I'm going to have to open this up. This feels like just a spring. I'm going to have to open this up and see if there's actually oil in here. Now, I have to open it up anyway, because I already told you guys I'm going to be opening it up, taking the shock shaft out, and putting a bit of this fuel line right here underneath of the piston in each one of these shocks. So I think that's going to be the first thing we're going to do, guys. I'm going to open this up. I guess I did also forget, guys, there is some little bit of hardware that comes with it. Just looks like some various, looks like there's some pivot balls in here, which they're already installed on the top and the bottom, it looks like, on these. So maybe they're just some extra ones, it looks like. Then some various screws, it looks like. Well, let's go ahead. First thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and get the pedestal off. So basically, pull that out, and then the pedestal will come off, if I can get it, like such. Then we can pull the shock spring off. And yeah, it doesn't feel like there's anything in this shock because there is not. I can just about guarantee when I open the shock up, there's nothing in there. Good thing is, I'm prepared. I have got shock oil, so no big deal. And I would have had to have dumped the shock oil out anyway. So actually, this kind of makes the job slightly easier for me. But getting this shock shaft open, or sorry, getting this shock cap off is the tricky part. Wow. It is on there tight. Alright, guys, I was able to loosen the shock cap finally. And as you guys can see, it looks like there was shock oil in here at some point, a little bit. Hopefully that isn't a precursor. Hopefully that isn't a sign that all of the oil drained out, because it appears that there was oil in here. As you guys can see, there's a tab of oil, and there actually it shot some oil out. And here's some oil on the bladder, but it doesn't feel like there's any oil in this. And the same is true for that one, all of them feel like they don't have oil, so maybe they just got filled with the tiniest bit of oil. But regardless, the thing I have to do now is I actually have to, looks like I'm going to need to take this little washer off, or sorry, this little nut off the top. Should be one of the ones on here, let's see. Yes, so whatever this bottom one is, which it is a 5.5. Yep, 5.5, and get that loosened up. And that came off. Now I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. So I was able to pull the shock shaft out from the bottom, which then what I'm going to do, it looks like there's some washers underneath. Looks like that they kind of use as a shim. Washer underneath the piston. Now, the thing I'm going to do is I have to cut some of this fuel line right here. Now, I think I watched a video, and I think it was Mark Santa Maria. I believe his video. I think he said anywhere from 5 to 10 millimeters cut off. I'm just going to guess and do just a small amount, maybe something like that. That might be like 6-7 millimeters, like that. But I need to do it evenly for all four. So let me get my cutters, and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright guys, so I've got my cutters, so I need to basically cut 4 even pieces. I'd say that's probably good. So cut one off, and now I need to basically cut off 4 more that exact same length. Alright, so I got my 4 right here, guys. They're all cut to roughly the same length. So basically what I'm going to do now, guys, is I am going to go ahead and just go ahead and slide one of these right here onto the shock shaft. So will it fit down on there? Will this size tubing work? I did not think about that could be a possibility, that the tubing is not thick enough, or it's not, the hole might not be big enough. That could pose an issue. Looks like the hole might be too small. Alright guys, I'm back with you guys. So after some tinkering, I figured out that the tube that I was using was not actually a large enough diameter through the center to fit over these shock shafts. So fortunately enough, I found this yellow tubing that appears to have a larger diameter, so hopefully it'll be able to fit over the shock shaft. But now I need to cut 4 little pieces once again. Alright guys, and here's all 4 of them right here. And now here's a moment of truth. Will this size tubing fit over the shock shaft? Still seems kind of tight. There we go. There, it's all the way onto the shock shaft, guys. And the next thing I'm going to do, I am going to go ahead and put the piston right here back onto the shock shaft. And then let's see. Then it's this little 5.5 millimeter nut right in here that then goes and holds the piston to the top. Alright, and that looks good, and the piston is on, and now that is the limit of the shock. So, I guess I didn't check to see what it was before, but significantly less travel now. I just have this 30 weight Traxxas shock fluid. I'm just going to go ahead and start pouring it in. And I want to get all the bubbles out of it. So I push the piston all the way to the top, pull it back down, just make sure right. I'm going to put a dab more in. And then before I fill it all the way up, then now I want to get this shock cap on. And I want to go ahead and make sure that I get it nice and tight. So I'll go ahead, get this in there, and go ahead and spin this around. Get that nice and snug. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is basically put it the rest of the way together, which basically just entails putting the shock spring back on, and then go ahead and slip this right here, which is the shock pedestal, or shock bottom mount, I don't know what you want to call it. And that's the tricky part, getting that back on. Alright guys, I finally got that pedestal back on. As you can see how much shorter the shock shaft is now. Hopefully I didn't take too much travel out. There's still a decent amount of travel there, but this was the original shock length right here. So by adding that, and I feel like it should be able to come down even further, but maybe it will in time. But we definitely shortened it quite a bit, as you guys can see. Here was the original shock, and that seems way more than what it should have. But we just put in a piece about this thick, so that might be on the thick side. That's probably pushing 10 mil. But since I already have them cut, and since I already have it installed in this one, got the oil filled in, I'm going to go ahead and leave it and kind of just start testing it like that and go from there. Let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put this shock on right now. We're going to see how it fits up compared to the stock shock. We're going to see if we can use the stock pieces. Alright, got that nice and snug. And now we just need to then screw this back into the shock tower. I'm going to put the tiniest dab of thread lock on because this is going to be threaded back into the aluminum shock tower. So tiniest bit of medium strength thread lock. And then grab my 2 mil again, and we're just going to go ahead and screw it back in. And then we got to go ahead and put these. I might need to stand these off a little bit, to be honest with you, because I'm a little bit worried about how big these springs are, and they stick out quite a bit. So I might need to stand these off at the bottom a little bit in order to have the proper amount of... So I feel like if I put that like... Yeah, I mean, I don't even think I can get that on there. I mean, I can get it to like right there, but then I'm worried it's going to touch. So we're going to have to use some sort of spacer at the bottom as well, guys. So I will look for something, and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright guys, I had to go off camera once again because these are the screws right here that are provided that I was using for the bottom shock mount. I now need a longer one because I then need to space out. I need to space this out further away because the shock spring otherwise will come in contact with this camber link, and we can't have that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this little nut onto here and tighten that up, and that is snug. And as you guys can see right now, maybe you can't, here's the standoff that I've made right here. I used a little 2mm nut, I think that's a 2mm nut, to just space that out. And now I need to figure out which hole I can put this into. That's what she said. I think I need to be in the second one, which is right here. We could go with the third, which was the one I was in. I think we got it spaced out enough, and it looks like we will have travel, guys. So that's what I'm going to have to do with all of them. As you guys can see, it doesn't have the most travel. It definitely lessened the travel quite a bit in the back. So we're going to have to see. I'm going to throw the wheel back on and just see kind of what it looks like with this big bore shock on, because I took quite a bit of the travel away when I did that. Well, it definitely looks a little bit different. Sounds like something's touching though. I don't know if that's anything touching. It doesn't look like anything's touching, but I'm hearing something. It might just be coming from the shock itself, but it's on, and it looks like it's going to work all right, but it might really kind of hunker this thing down a little bit more, but that's fine. So go ahead. I'm done with that one, guys, and I think I showed you guys everything I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to do all the rest of them off camera, basically installing this fuel line, filling them up with oil, and then installing them on all four corners. And then once I get done, I'll be right back with you guys to wrap up this video. Thing I noticed with that rear one, I was like, why do I only have like, I only had like this much travel? But it's because this fuel tubing is so tight on the shock shaft that I need to pull it all the way down. So it was caught right there, and even when I had it on the vehicle, I actually had to pull down on the suspension arm to then pull it to its sitting, resting stance, I guess you could say. So to extend it all the way out, and now it's good. Alright guys, I am finally back after what feels like an hour. It probably was actually legitly an hour because I had issues putting this together. Kind of just another issue with the hardware kind of clashing with one another. Because I had to change some stuff up with the front shocks because these front shocks had to be spaced out so far. I don't know if you can see this, but these front shocks right here, I had to space out 2 nuts because they're so big. That's how far I had to space them so the spring doesn't come in contact with the shock tower right there. It nearly does. So I had to space out quite a bit, which then means I need to change the screw holes on this, and then I needed to screw some screws from the back side. If you guys can see, I had to screw some screws from the back side to then hold this mount on, because then it clashed with the mount. I had to go through some different holes, and it was just a challenge. So yeah, it was just a challenge to get these to work. But yeah, I had to put these in a different set of holes, so the stance looks a little high in the front. I can't really do anything about that. I guess I could have gone to the upper hole right there, which maybe I should have done. The thing I don't like about these shocks is I don't like the amount of play that there is. There's a lot of play on the actual pivot ball, on the front and the back. That's on all 4 of them. There's just a ton of play, which I don't really like that much play. We'll see if they come off, but yeah, that just seems like a ton of play on the pivot balls. I actually had to change out the bottom pivot balls and put some washers in here underneath, because otherwise they were moving around too much. Because the pivot balls that came on it were too big, so they did have some ones supplied that were smaller, so they could fit down in here, but then they were too small where there was a bunch of slack and it was going back and forth. So then I had to put 2 washers in there, so it's just a bunch of fiddling. It's very difficult to actually get those 2 washers in there. Had to do that on both sides. I probably will put some more preload. I'm going to put some preload. I'll do it right now for you guys. I'm going to put some preload right now on the back, because I can tell the back needs to be lifted up a smidge. Alright guys, that's a little bit better at the back. I tightened these adjusters down a little bit. That brought the rear up just slightly more. So I think it's sitting good now. The front, I'm still not sure. The front, I'm debating, because I did have it in the middle hole, but then I had to switch it. I feel like these ones are laying down at quite the angle. I did originally have them in the middle hole, which is right, you can't even really see it, which is right there, but the issue is I have this other screw from the back side coming through there, and that's going into the middle one, and it's a super short one, so it doesn't come all the way through. So that's why I can't use that same hole that I had with the other shocks, the stock shocks, and I had to put them in the closer hole. I think I could probably put them in this upper hole. Let me throw the body on it, and we'll see how it looks. Would I recommend this upgrade? I'll put it in the description if any of you guys are interested, but it took a lot of customization, I'd have to say, in order to actually get it to work on this machine. It will work. We're gonna have to see how it handles. Front looks like it's sitting up higher, which I think it is. If you guys look, the front end looks like it's sitting up higher, but anyway guys, if you like this upgrade, or if you like this video, and at least if you bared with me through this video, because this was kind of a challenging one, because you know, some of them have been, but this is a little bit more challenging than some of the other ones. A little bit of a pain to get this together, but thank you guys so much for watching. And like I said, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, hit that thumbs up button. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, because we're going to have more videos coming out on this RC, and there's still some more upgrades to come. The next video you're going to see is you're going to see me testing these new shocks. So that will be the next running video. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in another video. Later. Alright guys, I'm back real quick. I decided to switch those shock tower holes for the upper shock mount. I did have them right in this hole right here. I decided to move them to the upper one on either side, so it just has the shocks a little bit more upright than before. I don't know if it's made that much of a difference. Anyway guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.